Hi, this is John Rosenhead, the Jerusalem psychotherapist. This week's Torah and Psychology post of Pasha's Balak is going to discuss misplaced emotion. Because we can all think of situations where, on face value, it seems to be a minor disturbance, a frustration, but it brings about an extreme emotional response. So, for example, it could be that you get stuck in traffic, or you go into a shop and the item that you wanted just sold out, or your favorite sports team just lost in a final. And it brings about this exaggerated response, this extreme frustration, anger, depression, maybe, this sadness. And you can wonder, perhaps retrospectively, you do wonder, and you say to yourself, why did I respond in that way? Why did it evoke within me such an emotional response? And we could explain it perhaps based on poor emotional regulation, lack of self-control. But perhaps there's something more deeper, perhaps there's something going on here which we can explain beyond just some internal workings. Perhaps there is actually a process here of emotional misplacement, or in psychoanalytical terms, it's a process of transference. That there are certain emotions or situations or relationships that we have, situations or relationships that bring about emotions that are very difficult for us. In particular, it can be emotions of anger and frustration, but we don't have the means at this moment to process those emotions, to manage those emotions. It's too intimidating, perhaps it's too scary, it's too overwhelming. But these are emotions that subconsciously they remain within us, and they lay dormant within us, still needing to be processed. And therefore, what can happen is that when a person finds themselves in a different situation, that perhaps it reminds them or it invokes and creates these emotions, that's why it comes out as being so extreme. So a situation that seemingly on face value, objectively, it's not such a big deal, but it does create emotions such as frustration or anger, or there's something about the situation that is similar in a way to the genuine situation or relationship where the emotions are actually are more relevant or associated, that it reminds them of the person that they have some sort of a conflict with, or reminds them of a situation that they're really struggling with. That is why perhaps this process of transference occurs, that it's the body and the mind and the psyche trying to give an indication, a hint to the person that there is a process here of transference, there is a process here that is occurring because there are emotions that are not yet being processed in an appropriate way, in an effective way, in a healthy way. And if we look at this week's Parsha, if we look at the group of people that went to serve Baal Pa'or, this avodah zarah, this idol worship, that was unique or puzzling in a way, that it was served by defecating on it. It seems so strange that you should serve an avodah zarah in that way, because although avodah zarah is asa, it's something which is forbidden, we can understand perhaps that it's because our relationship and connection with something that is above us, trying to find a source of support and guidance is supposed to only be with the Kodesh Baruch Hu, with Hashem. And if a person turns to avodah zarah, it's a misplaced emotion, it's a misplacement of this connection, of this relationship. And although a person is seeking something which is elevating, seeking a connection and guidance, it's placed in an inappropriate direction. It's found in avodah zarah rather in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So we can actually use this example of Baal Pa'or as an example for us, a model for us of how avodah zarah goes wrong, of how misplaced emotion actually is a process of transference. That defecating on avodah zarah is clearly a strange and puzzling and the antithesis of a connection with something which is above us and elevating and spiritual. It's the antithesis of that relationship. And therefore it's an indication to us, it's showing us that this is a misplaced emotion, it's showing us that this is wrong, and we can take it as a sign that we can learn from this as well, how misplaced emotion, although it can be something that at the time seems authentic and it seems to be appropriate, when we look back and we realize that was just exaggerated, it wasn't necessary, and we can use misplaced emotion as a guide, as a hint, as an indication that there is something going on, there's some unprocessed emotion or difficulty that we need to take on and look at on face value. And we need to actually work out how to process it in the appropriate way. We need to understand that there are emotions or situations or contexts in our life that are too difficult for us and do actually still require emotional processing. And that the transference that occurs is guidelines for us. And Avodah Zarah and Baal Pa'ar is awesome, it's forbidden, but it can be seen as a guideline to try to reconnect and try to strengthen our relationship with the Kodesh Baruch Hu, with actually being correctly placed emotion and connection with the Kodesh Baruch Hu. Have a great Shabbos and keep well.